Well, good morning. How are you all today? And welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. If you're new here, welcome. It's good to have you. I want to talk today. I've been meaning to do this one for a while, but I want to talk about what if you could only have one gun? And the reason that I'm doing this is because we have a lot of new people getting involved in preparedness, and a lot of people just beginning getting involved and getting interested in guns. I think we can understand why, right? The way the world is going, you need to be able to provide for yourself, and that means providing the proper protection. Now, I put usually, and I'm going to differentiate. This is different than what your first gun should be. Okay, two different questions, and I think I'll probably address that later in this video too. But this is going to be about if you could only have one gun, and the reason that I approach it that way is it shows you the versatility and what you want to look for. Usually, I just put up the gun stuff on Patreon um, because I tell you why. There's just there are so many people that have an interest in guns and will get on, but they don't really understand it. They haven't carried guns professionally. They haven't used them professionally, and yet their great interest causes them to come on videos like this and express all sorts of. Now, many people, if I if I leave comments open on this one, I don't think I should get too many crazy comments on this one, but if I get too many, then I lock out the comments because I don't want newer people to be misled by someone who thinks they know what they're talking about and doesn't. Okay, and by that I mean those who have gotten most of their information from, gun magazines and not the serious gun magazines, but the ones you see, at the grocery store. And these are opinion pieces, that are meant to be, to suck in the novice and to give, cool sounding ideas and things to people who really don't know. Um, but they can be misleading for the new person, and I don't want you to be misled. If you're just getting into this, or if you're just interested in this, I want you to get the information and be able to consider it for yourself without a whole bunch of noise. So that's why I usually keep these things over on Patreon. Although I'm gonna allow this on the YouTube channel. By the way, speaking of Patreon, I just put up yesterday was Chuck Norris's birthday, and I put up a couple about Chuck, and I let one. I put one of them, the original one. The first one I put up, I allowed it to be on YouTube for a little while, and then I got to thinking about it. I said, nah, that's just, I don't think so. It's a little bit of information about Chuck that probably a lot of people don't know. And I decided I made that unlisted again, so that's only available on the Patreon channel. And then I put one up about the true story of why uh, why Bruce Lee was able to show that fight scene in the Coliseum with Chuck Norris, and it's an interesting story. And I put that up on the Stonemont level, the second level of the Patreon channel, because that's a personal story. And the things that I put up, personal stories, I put them on the second level of the Stonemont level. And if you're not with us there, the link to the Patreon channel is down below, and we'd love to have you. First level's only $1 a month. Second level's only $5, and you'll learn a lot. You will really learn a lot. And for those of you guys on Patreon already, make sure that you check the daily chat every day, because I put up something every day that'll either start a conversation or ask a question or whatever, and it's really working out well. Uh, so that's that. So let's talk about um, if you could only have one gun. And there'll be a lot of ideas about this, and the ideas that people will have, of course, will be the result of their, well, I'd like to say experience, but too many people don't have experience in this. It's just what they've heard and what they've read, and I have a different idea than most people. And the scenario I want you to think about, what if it came that you were given a choice? Say the government, say, I don't know, whatever, says you can only own one gun. What are you going to choose? What are you going to choose? A lot of people are going to say, well, you get a handgun. Okay. And because you can carry that with you and you can use it for self-defense, and that's the main gun that you want. Well, no, it's not. No, it is. I'll get back to handguns in just a little bit. Okay, another person, because of the recent, and by recent I mean 10 years, just the explosion of the interest in the AR. You know, people will say that. Well, you can use it for self-defense, and you can use it for hunting, and you can use it for this, and you can use it for that. And while it is good for some of those things, it is also very limited. My choice and my suggestion, if you could only have one gun for the rest of your life, would be a shotgun. Now, I'll explain to you the reasons why. The shotgun is the most versatile firearm that you can get. If you're not familiar with shotguns, and most people really aren't. Even the people who really got involved in guns over the last 10 years, it's all been about pistols and ARs, because that's what the driving media has been about, right? And so a lot of people don't know a lot about shotguns. And besides that, they're just not that cool. A lot of people think about, well, shotguns, that's grandpa's gun. Grandpa on the farm, he always had a shotgun. Well, there's a reason Grandpa always had a shotgun, because he could use it for just about anything. If you look at a pistol, you can carry it anywhere, but there's a limit as to what you can hunt. Go out and try to get a deer with a pistol. Go out and try to because the purpose of a gun is to be able to provide food for you and protect your life. Okay, try taking a deer with a handgun. Unless it's one of the large Magnum revolver calibers or 10 millimeters. You're not going to have much luck with taking down anything large with a handgun, and that's only going to be fairly close. Try hunting birds. Try hunting rabbits and squirrels with a handgun. You're going to be hungry for a long time. Think about the AR. Okay, well, you can defend yourself with it, certainly. You can hunt certain things with it. I mean, you can take. If you try to take a squirrel or a rabbit with it, there's not going to be a lot left to eat. Depending on where you're at it. You could get a rabbit. You can take medium-sized thing up through a deer. Yeah, you can take a deer with it. I think some states make it illegal. I think to hunt with a 223 or 5.56. We'll get people on here say, well, I don't do. I always shoot 5.56. If you're not familiar with what this means, don't worry about it. It's one of those things that people who don't know any better love to argue about. Actually, in many cases, 223. The 5.56 is a more military designation, so people love that. But actually, in many basic loads, the 223 is faster than a 5.56. But most people don't know that. So that brings us to the shotgun. What can a shotgun do? A shotgun can do pretty much anything and everything. A shotgun, and we'll start with the 12 gauge. 12 gauge, and the gauge, for those of you who are brand new to this, just describes the caliber. Okay, gauge is used in shotguns as opposed to caliber, which is a pistol or a rifle cartridge. So it's the size of the bore. Okay. The most common that most people know of is the 12 gauge. Now I'm going to talk about the 20 gauge in just a minute too, because I love the 20 gauge. With a 12 gauge, you can load a shotgun anything from birdshot to buckshot, double-aught, single-aught, triple-aught, whatever. So you can take and then slugs. You can hunt anything in the world with a shotgun. It's just a matter of what rounds you choose. It can protect you, and I'll get back to that in just a minute. There's very few things that'll protect you better than a shotgun. I was in law enforcement long ago and for quite a while, and we didn't at the time carry rifles. I mean, those SWAT carried rifles and things, but the average patrol officer did not. He always we always did it with a 6-shot revolver, yeah, and a shotgun. When you went to your shotgun, when you didn't think that 6 was going to be enough, or you were going into a situation that if it popped off, if something popped off, you wanted to be able to close the account right now. I mean, immediately. And a shotgun, nothing does that better than a shotgun. I'll tell you why. We'll talk about this. Now, but let's finish the hunting first. Okay. You get birdshot. You can hunt anything that's flying by. Okay. The smaller shot, you can shoot anything that's hopping or running or anything. Everything from squirrels to rabbits to whatever as it goes up. One of the reasons it's called buckshot is because you can hunt deer with buckshot. Now, what buckshot is for newer people is in a shotgun shell, which you'll see has a brass base and then a plastic shell. Within that shell are contained a lot of pellets, and the lower the number, the larger the pellet. Of course, the larger the pellet, the fewer pellets you can get in that shell. Okay, so if you're dealing with number 4 shot, for instance, or number 8 shot, 7.5, 8 shot, they're going to be very, very small, but there are going to be a lot of them in there, and so that's why when birds are flying by, you can crank a round off, and you probably get 1 or 2 of them. Okay, because there's a whole lot of them. A lot of them. Now, there's not any of them big enough to kill anything much larger than a bird, but you feed yourself with that. As the number of the shot gets lower, the size of the shot gets larger. So, in say a double-aught buck, in most of now double-aught buck is 33 caliber. Now you can compare that. What is that? Well, 33 caliber is a little bit smaller than a 9mm. I say that because more people are familiar with 9mm than they are 38, because 38 is an old guy's. It's a good caliber, but it's so a 9mm is a .357, essentially 357. It's a 38 short. Okay. But a double-aught buck is 33 caliber. But the thing is in that one shell, you've got, depending on the manufacturer, 8 or 9 pellets. So that every time you squeeze the trigger, you got 8 or 9 of these going out. 8 or 9. And the reason they call it buckshot is because you can take a deer with that. Now, many people, most people that I know that hunt deer with shotguns, use slugs. Now, a 12-gauge slug is a 72 caliber. Actually, I think it's .729, but it's so that would be like a 73 caliber. That's the bore, but well, let's don't get too complicated. Okay, just think 72 caliber. Now, every time you pull the trigger, you're shooting either a 72 caliber slug at about 1,500 feet per second muzzle velocity. Now that's not near what a rifle's shooting. You're up in upper 2s or close to 3,000 feet per second. But it's a lot. It's plenty. It'll take down anything in North America. It'll take down anything anywhere, really, to be honest. And if you are shooting, say, in a self-defense situation, you think about it, every time you pull the trigger, you are sending out 8 or 9, and more manufacturers, I think, put 9 in them. 9, let's just call it 9 33 caliber balls, projectiles at about 1,500 feet per second. That is much faster than most pistols, uh, except for the magnums. And you're getting a lot of them, even though it's about half the velocity of a rifle. So every time you pull the trigger, you're sending out 9 of these. Okay. So let's think about in a self-defense situation. Well, if you're using an AR, of course you got one going with every time you pull the trigger, right? Okay. With 9 in a shell, and most of the civilian market shotguns will carry 4 or 5 in the magazine. So let's just say 5. And there's a couple of good ones I would suggest, and there's a lot of people that make shotguns out there. I've always pretty much had Mossbergs and Remingtons. Like them, we carried Remingtons as in our patrol cars. Back in the old day, it was the 870 Wingmaster, and I think now more people are carrying the 870 Express. Mossberg has a whole line. They're very, very, very good. They're just basic shotguns, and you can do pretty much everything with them. And I forget, one of them carries 4+1, the other 5+1. Doesn't matter which. Let's just say you have 5 rounds in there. So you can in a pump, okay, you can let those 5 rounds go pretty darn quick. You know, well under 5 seconds. So in under 5 seconds, you're putting out with each squeeze 9. 5 times 9, 45. Okay. So say that you are under attack. I mean, that's the thing that a lot of people are concerned about. Home invasion, different things. And don't anybody come on and say, well, for a home invasion, it's better to have a such and such and such and such. I'll probably do one on home invasions on the Patreon channel, but don't confuse the issue here, because just don't, unless you speak from experience, and very few out there speak from experience. Guns is kind of like the fighting or the UFC. There's a lot more people who want to talk about it than have experience at it. So every time you rank it out, it's 45. Well, with an AR, how long does it take you to get out 45? The equivalent. Okay. Well, one for every trigger pull. Now, some can pull that trigger pretty fast and some can't. And usually you would not want to do this. I mean, if somebody is invading your home, you're not going to get up there and let it go unless you're missing all the time and they're moving. You keep shooting and you keep missing. But there's a whole lot more things that go into the dynamics of that situation, and I'm not going to get into that. And it's something that most people who haven't been there don't even think about. So let's stay with the shotguns. So within that 5 seconds, you've let 45 projectiles go in the direction of your target. With an AR, well, it takes you a lot longer than that, including a magazine change. Okay. So that's why it's good for defense, and why it's good for hunting. You can hunt anything with it, and you can't hunt anything with an AR or with a handgun. And not somebody may come on and say, I can hunt anything in North America with my whatever, 44 Magnum. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love the 41 Magnum. I have a 41 Magnum. Not many people have 41 Magnums. I love the 41 Magnum. I think it's better than the 44 Magnums. And other people say, well, I can hunt anything with my 10 millimeter. Yeah, you can. You can kill anything with it if you can get it, but you can't. You're probably not going to have a good chance of killing a deer or a bear or anything like that at 100 yards. Okay, which you could with a shotgun. So anyway. That's the basics for that. Now, I said that I was going to mention something about 20 gauge. 20 gauge, I love 20 gauge. It's easier for smaller framed people to handle. Simple as that. It's very utilitarian. Now, of course, in law enforcement, we all carried 12 gauge, but we could handle 12 gauge. And I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of cops now that are smaller and smaller framed men and women and things like that. And, they shoot a 12 gauge. They don't want to shoot it very much. A 20 gauge is of course, as the name implies, smaller, because the larger in gauge, the larger the number, the smaller the bore. Now, your trade-off in 20 gauge is it's a lot easier to handle for a smaller person, but it's still very effective. The caliber of a 20 gauge, I'm trying to remember exactly what it is, but it's essentially, I think it's a .629 caliber, which is essentially a 20. Just think of it as a 62 caliber. Okay, now you've given up 10 caliber increments there. 12 gauge is 72 caliber. A 50, a 20 gauge is a 62 caliber. That's much bigger than a 50 caliber, right? And it's not going at a 50 cal, velocity, but it's going pretty hot. It's going, again, 1,500 feet per second muzzle velocity. It will also kill anything. It'll kill anything that it'll kill more than a 44 Magnum at distance, or a 10 millimeter or anything like that. Will. And it gives you greater range. Now, when you're thinking about hunting, you can get all the one hang up, I'll put this in here. 20 gauge ammo is not as common, not as prevalent. You can walk into any sporting goods store and there will be shelves and shelves and shelves of 12 gauge ammo, and not a lot 20 gauge. But if you buy your ammo like you should, and that is buy as much as you think you're ever going to need, do it a little bit at a time. You can, if you can't afford to just get a whole bunch, get you a box or two every week, and pretty soon you're going to have enough. But if the grid goes down, if everything goes down, like in my books, and you go into are able to go past some place that has some ammo, you're going to have a much better chance finding 12 gauge than 20 gauge. Okay, so that is a drawback to 20 gauge is ammo availability. But getting back to this, it's still very effective. It's a 62 caliber. If you're hunting birds or small things, there are plenty of pellets in a 20 gauge to get the job done. If you're wanting larger pellets, if you're wanting to get up into the double-aught buck or single-aught buck, the shells aren't going to hold as many pellets as a 12 gauge. Simple as that. And I forget exactly what it is. It's 5 maybe. Instead of 8 or 9, it's 5 or 6 pellets in a 20 gauge in double-aught buck. And you could also get slugs. So that's the trade-off, and it's much easier if you're getting one. Say if we spread this out and said you could only have one gun for your family, and your family includes women and younger people and things like that, you might consider a 20 gauge. And there are youth models of 20 gauges that have a shortened stock on them and things, and they're just as easy to handle. But the average person, can handle a full size, and you can learn to shoot. People have been learning to, back in the day, back in the frontier days and the pioneers and the old West, Mossberg and Remington weren't pumping out youth models, right? It was just a shotgun. So anyway, that's. I also said that I'd get to, maybe I'd mention the first gun. So that's if you could only have one gun, shotgun. Okay. If you're not constrained by that, what's the first gun you should get? And that would be a handgun. Okay. Why? Well, why the difference, Steve? Well, because we're assuming you're not going to be constrained and you're going to be able to get other guns. And the handgun is the first because your primary concern at this point is self-defense. You can defend yourself in your home, in your office, wherever you are, in your car, with a handgun. You can carry it. You're not going to carry a shotgun. You're not going to carry an AR. So you can carry this with you. You can carry it concealed. It can be with you everywhere. Well, pretty much everywhere except, the no, the come kill me zones. And but that should be your first. If you have no guns, your first one should be a handgun. And then I would suggest that your second gun. I know everybody wants to jump into ARs. I would suggest your second one be a shotgun for the very reasons that I've explained. And then once you have those two taken care of, then you can get into the AR, the AR-15 platform, or you can go. And then after that, I'd suggest going with a hunting round, a larger round, a 308. Um, there are other rounds of the 30 caliber range that we're not even going to get into it. The 30-06 and stuff like that. Don't even worry about it. Go with 308. So that's my take on what you should get if you could only have one gun and the first gun. Oh, by the way, hey, this is the latest mug. The only, speaking of guns, the only commie idea liberals hate. These are the latest mugs available through our website, stonemont.us. See that? How beautiful that is. This is now our biggest seller. This has been the hottest seller of all of our mugs so far, and we're just getting, oh man, I mean, the orders are just blowing us away. So you can get yours. I just had somebody order a whole bunch of them. Somebody said, because I've always said, buy one for yourself, buy one for you and a friend, so you can drink coffee together, or tea, whatever you drink, beer, I don't care, together, and or buy some for friends. And somebody said, man, buy a bunch of them and give them away at the gun range. It'll make you the most popular person over there. That's the truth. Or somebody said, use them, give them away at a gun range as a voter registration drive. That's a great idea. And I just said, somebody buy a bunch of these. Anyway, you don't have to buy a bunch. You can buy one, two, or you can buy a bunch. I don't care. Get them through our website at stonemont.us. The link is down below. That's also where you can get, for those who are new to me here, it's also where you can order my book, the Stonemont series. Yeah, I'm the guy that wrote the Stonemont series. The Reversion, the Revival, the Renewal, An Appeal to Heaven, the Blessings of Freedom, and Hostages to Fortune. Currently working on number 7. I call these the complete plan to preparing for, surviving, and rebuilding after a complete collapse of everything. And in it, you will find information. You will find lessons buried in a story that you will love. You won't even realize you're learning, but you'll say, oh, man, I learned a lot in there. And you will, and you'll enjoy it. I've had, I don't know how many preparedness instructors tell me, wow, I learned a lot from those books. Well, I've been doing this a long time. I'm just saying the facts. I'm not trying to brag, but I've been in preparedness for 50 years. And I just started writing down, what would happen and what you ought to do and what you ought to do to prepare for it and deal with it and everything like that. Those are available also through our website. You can get them through Amazon, actually. I'll put that link below. Amazon gets you to them to you pretty quick. I don't get them to you that quick because, I got to sign them and we got to handle the shipping and everything ourselves. And sometimes I run out and then I got to order more and all that, but I get to sign them for you. So if you get them directly through me, that link to our website is also down below, where you can order, like I say, the mugs, the books, our t-shirts, all sorts of Stonemont stuff, and you will be glad you did. So do that if you'd like, and I hope you learned a little bit about this for people considering about guns. We have so many new people getting involved, and that's good. I'm glad about that. More people ought to realize, because I always say that the preparedness is the ultimate responsibility and the ultimate irresponsibility. You are responsible for taking care of yourself, and that doesn't just mean providing for your food, water, shelter, and things like that, but providing for your security and your safety. And nothing does that better than a gun. And there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of misleading information out there about guns, and that's too bad. It's just like there's so much misleading information out there about martial arts and fighting, and because there's a lot more people interested in them than actually know about them. So be careful what you listen to. And I hope this has helped. And remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And your first step of preparing well is having knowledge. And matter of fact, up on the and join us on Patreon. By the way, today my statement was how important it is to learn from the writings of others, so that you can learn easily from what they have worked hard for. Education. You all have a good day. I'm going to go out and do some things, and I'll probably talk to you later. Bye bye.